The phone slipped from his hand and hit the kitchen floor with a dull, final sound, as if it already knew what the words meant. Fired. On Christmas Eve. The tree in the corner blinked softly, one bulb out, another flickering, while the smell of instant noodles filled the small apartment. Outside, snow pressed against the window like the world was trying to look in. Inside, a single dad stood frozen, his breath shallow, his chest tight, realizing that in one short call, everything he had been holding together for his child had just shattered. Before this story goes any further, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of humanity, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to this channel. Stories like this matter because people like this exist. Ethan Parker had learned how to survive in pieces. He survived in grocery lists carefully calculated down to the last coin. He survived in alarm clocks that rang before sunrise so he could drop his 6-year-old daughter Lily at a neighbor's apartment before catching the first bus to work. He survived in silence, swallowing pride every time he had to say no to school trips or birthday parties. Since his wife passed away 2 winters ago, the world had become a place of constant negotiating, and every day felt like a fragile tower built from exhaustion and love. His job at the shipping warehouse wasn't glamorous, but it was steady. It paid just enough. It gave him health insurance. It gave Lily safety. And now it was gone. The voice on the phone had been polite, distant, corporate, downsizing, end-of-year cuts, nothing personal. Ethan had nodded even though the person couldn't see him. He thanked them, because that was the kind of man he was. Then the call ended, and Christmas Eve became something else entirely. He looked at the calendar on the wall where Lily had drawn a red circle around Christmas Day, decorating it with stick-figure snowmen and a crooked star. He wondered how to explain that Santa might be late this year, or worse, that Santa might not come at all. Ethan's enemy was named Marcus Hale. That was how Ethan thought of him, even though they had never shouted or fought. Marcus was the operations manager at the warehouse, the man who watched from above, clipboard always in hand, eyes sharp, face unreadable. Marcus had written Ethan up twice in the past year for being late, even though Ethan had explained about Lily, about daycare falling through, about buses that didn't always run on time. Rules were rules, Marcus had said. Ethan learned to keep his head down after that to Marcus. Ethan was another number, another worker who didn't quite fit the schedule. To Ethan, Marcus represented everything cold and unforgiving about a system that didn't care why you were tired. Snow fell harder that night, and the apartment grew quieter as Lily slept, curled under a blanket too big for her, clutching a stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. Ethan sat at the small table, staring at a notebook filled with numbers, rent, utilities, groceries, bus fare. There was no room for error. There was no emergency fund. There was only him. He felt the weight of it press into his spine, bending him forward. He didn't cry. He didn't have time to cry. He just sat there, breathing slowly, wondering which part of his life he could afford to lose first. Christmas morning came anyway. Lily woke up early, excitement cutting through the tension Ethan tried to hide. There were only 2 small presents under the tree, both bought weeks ago with careful planning. Lily didn't complain. She never did. She hugged Ethan tightly, her arms small but fierce, and told him it was the best Christmas ever. That made something in his chest ache more than the firing ever had. Children had a way of loving you without knowing how close you were to breaking. The days after Christmas blurred together. Ethan applied everywhere, grocery stores, gas stations, delivery services. He walked until his shoes wore thin, hands shoved into pockets, resume folded and unfolded so many times it became soft. Rejections came quietly, sometimes not at all. Employers wanted flexibility, open availability, late nights, early mornings. Ethan had Lily. That was both his greatest strength and his biggest obstacle. Bills began to stack on the counter like silent accusations. The tree lost its needles. The lights went dark. One afternoon, as Ethan stood in line at a community assistance office, he saw a familiar figure across the room. Marcus Hale. The same neat coat, the same posture, but something was different. He wasn't standing tall. He was sitting, shoulders slumped, staring at a form in his hands like it was written in another language. For a moment, anger flared in Ethan's chest. The man who enforced rules without mercy, here among people who had nothing. The irony felt sharp. Ethan looked away, focusing on Lily's mittened hand in his own. Life, however, has a way of pushing people together when they least expect it. A week later, during a heavy snowfall, Ethan's bus broke down miles from home. He walked, Lily asleep on his shoulder, snow soaking through his jacket. Halfway here, his legs began to shake from exhaustion. A car pulled over slowly. The window rolled down. Marcus Hale looked out, eyes widening in recognition. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Pride and resentment hung in the cold air. Marcus offered a ride. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Lily slept on, unaware of the history between the two men. The car was warm, too warm. It felt like relief and shame all at once. As they drove, the silence stretched, then broke. Marcus didn't apologize, not directly. Instead, he talked about his own situation, about how the warehouse had closed one division entirely, about how he had been laid off too, just weeks after making decisions that now haunted him, about how his wife had left years ago and how he had convinced himself that work was enough. Ethan listened, not because he wanted to forgive, but because something in Marcus's voice sounded raw and unfamiliar. They were both tired men, worn down by systems larger than themselves. When Marcus dropped Ethan off, he handed him a card. Not a business card, just a handwritten number and an address. He said there might be something, no promises. Ethan didn't call for 3 days. Pride is stubborn, especially when you've been humiliated by survival, but desperation is louder. When he finally dialed the number, Marcus answered immediately, as if he'd been waiting. The address led to a small logistics startup run out of a converted warehouse. Nothing fancy, but they needed someone reliable, who knew operations from the ground up. Marcus had vouched for him. More than that, Marcus had recommended him. The interview was brief, honest. Ethan didn't pretend his life was simple. He talked about Lily, about needing stability, about wanting to work hard, not just survive. The owner listened. 2 days later, Ethan got the call. The job didn't pay much more than the last one, but it offered flexible hours and something rare, understanding. Ethan hung up the phone and laughed, a sound that surprised him with its volume. Lily danced around the room when he told her, her laughter filling spaces that had been empty for too long. But the story didn't end there. Over the next months, Ethan and Marcus crossed paths often. Marcus volunteered at the startup, helping without pay, using his experience to build something better than what they'd both lost. The man Ethan once resented began showing up early, staying late, quietly fixing problems without taking credit. Ethan watched, uncertain at first, then curious. People are complicated, he realized. Sometimes the enemy in your story is just someone else stuck in their own. One evening, after a long day, Ethan found an envelope in his locker. Inside was a note from Marcus. It wasn't an apology written in grand words. It was simple. He said he was sorry for not seeing Ethan before, sorry for valuing rules over people. He thanked Ethan for taking the job, for trusting him enough to show up. Ethan sat on the bench for a long time. After reading it, feeling something loosen inside him. Forgiveness didn't come all at once, but it came. Winter softened into spring. Bills were paid. The apartment felt warmer even when the heat was low. Lily grew taller, her laughter louder. Ethan began to breathe differently, as if the air itself had changed. On a quiet afternoon, as he walked home holding Lily's hand, He realized that losing his job on Christmas Eve had nearly destroyed him. But it had also led him here, to a place where people mattered more than policies, where an enemy became an ally, where survival turned into something like hope. If this story is touching your heart right now, if it's reminding you of someone you know or something you've lived through, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and let us know in the comments. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who need them most. 1 year later, on another Christmas Eve, snow fell gently again. The apartment was different now, brighter. The tree was full, lights steady and glowing. Ethan watched Lily place the star on top, her face serious with concentration. There was food on the table, not much, but enough. There was laughter, there was peace. Ethan stepped onto the balcony for a moment, letting the cold air fill his lungs. He thought about that night a year ago, about the floor, the phone, the word fired echoing in his mind. He thought about how close he had come to giving up. Behind him, Lily called his name. He went back inside, closing the door on the cold. Some losses, he realized, are only endings because we don't yet see what they make room for. And sometimes the person you think is your enemy is the one who teaches you that kindness can come from the most unexpected places. Before this story ends, we have one special request. Please comment below with just one word, hope. Let it be a reminder that even in the darkest moments, something better can be waiting. And if this story moved you, if it made you feel something real, please engage with this video from the heart. Your support keeps these stories alive, and your kindness might be exactly what someone else needs today.